Thank you for tuning in to The Truth with Trinity. And I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I'd like to send you a warm welcome. Here I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, hopefully for some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into this episode's topic, which is how sexism is used to separate Black people. So I don't know if it's just me or has it seemed like out of the blue now for the last 20 years they're heavily promoting interracial dating, right? And at one point it can seem like, well, America's finally coming around. People are starting to be more open-minded. People are embracing each other for who they are more than ever, right? But then there's this other side. Hypothetically speaking, is there a more sinister approach? Is there an ulterior motive? Or could this be a new method of Jim Crow that is inflicted on Black people without them even really thinking about it because of the hatred that Black women and men have had toward each other? Let's talk about it a little bit. And before I do, I like to make a small disclaimer. This does not apply to every interracial relationship. This doesn't apply to every Black man, Black woman, white woman. I mean, there's some interracial relationships that are solely based out of love, commitment, and, so there are those relationships. But for the purposes of this episode, I'm going to bring up some hypothetical points that, for educational and psychological purposes, I would like Black people to take a closer look at and to evaluate ourselves as Black men and women. So, throughout our history of captivity, there have been quite a few methods that have been used to keep Black people angry, confused, at odds with each other, in a totally dependent state, and also willing to throw away their melanin, so throw away their blackness, to think it's unattractive, okay? I like to discuss the hidden agenda of how racism can be infused through sexism, okay? As I've mentioned in a prior episode, that that sexism has become a tool used against Black people. For example, white men to give special privileges to Black women, but still hate Black men, and for white women to hate Black women, but act nice toward Black men. Okay, but the question is, have we as Black women and men grown to hate each other so much that as long as another race is acting kind to us, that we don't care to see how they may react to the rest of Black people? For example, I like to go over some hypothetical questions to ask ourselves as Black people. Okay? When you look at how quickly interracial dating has evolved, whereas like 20 or 30 years ago, you as a Black man were on the borderline for being lynched for just whistling or looking at a white woman. Now it is saturated throughout the media and every outlet. We can say that America is just becoming more accepting, or is there a more sinister plot taking place? Okay, so I like to talk about some of the questions and things to really consider. Number one, the Black man is used to subliminally send a message to Black women that she is undesirable and that a white woman is over her, or seen, as better appealing. Okay, so it is used to further create animosity between Black men and women. Okay, because even white women hate to see white men with Black women for the most part. I'm not going to say all of them do. Okay, so I'm going into how, Black men are being manipulated and subliminally used to send a message to Black women that they're unworthy, that they're unattractive. Okay, like I said, because even white women hate it, and white women have a history. If we talk about slavery, when the master or slave, the male slaveholder of the plantation was away, the white woman would take her frustration out on the Black woman. And let's face it, the Black woman back in that time didn't even want to sleep with the white man, but she was killed and beat by the white woman. And she's often depicted as being angelic, and that she wasn't partaking in any of the lynchings and beatings and torture of both Black men and women, though. Okay, and even now, they cover up, the mishaps, the tantrums, the racial slurs, just the displeased attitude of some and a lot of white women when they do see, and sometimes flat out violent. It's covered up when they see a black woman with a white man, though, you know. But black women are called crazy, bitter, and just jealous, almost as if to say the white woman has a right to be upset when her white man is with black women because she's not used to being overlooked, versus the black woman should be used to being overlooked by now. So that's the reason why she's jealous. When any race of woman would be jealous if their men put down or overlook them to the magnitude that the black man in the last 20 to 30 years has been overlooking the black woman, because it's natural. It naturally makes them feel unattractive. Okay, so like I said, even white women would get upset if white men just overabundance of them just start talking and desiring and skipping over them. Like I said, because it makes them feel naturally unattractive, and that their race of men prefers a woman that doesn't resemble them. Yet white women are never called jealous if they get upset at white men interracially dating. They never get upset. They never get called upset or jealous. But they do get that way. It's just brushed underneath the rug, or it's justified, or it's not brought out into the media as much. Could it be that black men were fed this myth that only black women get frustrated by seeing their own race of men date interracially when other races of women have and would do the same? And you know, you have a lot of black women now, they're saying, hey, I'm not as frustrated as I was 40 to 50 years ago because now I'm interracially dating. Okay, so, you know, look at that effect, you know, of what's going on, you know. And are black men so out of sync with black women that they aren't receptive to such a possible tactic, that this could be a tactic, okay, that they're just, you know, being thrown, you know, white women in such a overabundance that's so accepted. You know, back when Emmett Till was getting lynched, and now it's just so broadly accepted on commercials, and you know, everywhere you look, it's not just one or two. You know, it's just like saturated. You know, television shows, movies, everywhere you name it. You know, and black men, you know, like I said, are they, you know, they have such hatred that they're failing to see that this could be a possible tactic, which further causes hatred, hurt, and animosity towards black men, and subconsciously encourages black women to interracially date themselves. Like I said, now black women are starting to, you know, we're talking about black women being known for being loyal, you know, for the most part to the black man, and not really interracially dating as much. And now, you know, you're seeing an increase of black women doing so, and I, you know, think that that subconsciously encourages black women to do it. Okay, but not date out of open options, but from a feeling of hate. Okay. um Number two, does white culture use sexism as a tool to further separate black men and women's relationships? Okay, all white people won't interracially date. Okay, so some will and some won't. But are some being conditioned to be casualties of war to be used to keep black men and women, you know, looking at them as the solution to black people's problems? So are black people? So what I mean by that is, you know, are the powers that be knowing that, hey, a few, you know, a few million or whatever white people are going to interracially date, that's going to be, you know, lessening their race, but hey, we'll take a few for the team to keep black women and men separated, and to keep black women and men feeling like we're the answer to their problems, okay, and their issues, because there's, you know, like, I don't know, 10 times as many white people in America. So if a percentage of them interracially date, yes, it takes away from some whiteness, but 4 times as many black people in the next generation will be considered as non-black, due to the fact we already represent only 13% of this population. Okay, and could this be another part of the agenda to exterminate us? You know, because there's so many different methods. You know, you got medical, you got criminal, you've got executions, you got modern day lynchings, you got, you know, fetal death syndrome amongst African American women, you got poisoning with medication, poverty. You know, they've got us separating from each other. Now, this is things that we can control ourselves, though, you know, once we become hip and choose to have a willingness to do something about it. But, you know, the child support, you know, separating the black man and woman, welfare, you know, just all sorts of aspects that were separated. But could this be another way to do so? And also, which may lead to the reason that why 50 years ago if your hair was dark near brown, even with light skin, you were considered black. So if you were just a sneeze outside of being, with white pale skin, you were considered black. You had to, go in that, drink out that other water fountain. But now, they have moved the racial stick to include more people then that 50 years ago wouldn't be considered white. Okay, so is there an agenda with that? Is sexism used as a new method of Jim Crow, like behavior that has slipped through the minds of majority of black people? Okay, in other words, majority of white nationalists and white people who hold the old school complex of superior versus inferior, no, they can't use the same tactics without being detected so easily, okay? So is there a new rule for white women to oppress black women and for white men to murder and oppress black men but flirt with black women? Okay, all to give black people the illusion that they are being treated with fake equality. So let me go a little bit into that. Like, um, people can be rude to other people. Sometimes women don't get along. So I'm not saying every interaction between, for example, black men and white men has something to do with racism, okay? But is this a tactic being used, though? Okay, I'm some type of epidemic to where it's like, okay, I can't just come out and call them the N word without being videotaped, or flexing my superior privilege. So I'll be nice to black women as a white man, and I'll murder off and be nasty and oppressive to black men. Okay, so if anyone ever accuses me of being racist, I can say, hey, I'm nice to black women. Okay, I'm kind to black women, so I'm not racist. Okay, or have we as black people, for example, hated the opposite sex so much? So, as a black woman, if there is a white man being nice to us, okay, and we hate black men so much that if we do see him being killed by a white man that is being nice to us out of the same hand, that we hate black men so much that we're willing to ignore it. Or as a black man, has a black man grown to hate the black woman so much that if he sees a white woman being nasty and just flat out racist to a black woman, that he hates black women so much that he's like, hey, as long as Becky's nice to me, I don't care what she does with black women. And that causes us to lose value and respect overall as a race of people with everyone when we do things like that. Okay? But because black men and women have such hatred for each other, they are too blind to see that. For example, like I said, a white man may have just cursed out a black woman, but smiles at a black man. Okay. So she's nice. Like I said, she's nice to the black man, but she was just real nasty and cursed out the black woman. Okay. Or the same white man that just killed a black man may try to hop in bed with a black woman. Okay. Could this be another way that racism and Jim Crow has evolved, but we are too blind to take notice because we hate each other as black men and women so much? So we're so happy to get a cookie, metaphorically speaking, that, we're not looking that, some white people may be mistreating the opposite sex of the race of our people, but we're so happy to be accepted, okay? We're so happy to be accepted that we're not looking at that. We're not looking at, hey, is this guy that I'm dating that may be white, is he, having so much negative to say about black people, okay? Or is this white girl that I'm dating, she seems to be treating me fake nice, but, I see her treating other black women like crap, and like I said, have we hated each other so much, and have white people, use this as a way to say, hey, we're not racist if we treat you nice, the opposite sex, but while still hating the black race, though. Um, I say this because, you know, when you have seen a white person, even if they have interracial partners, okay, have an interracial partner, when have you seen a white woman say negative things about white men, okay? Or a white man broadcasting negative attributes or saying that he finds them unattractive, even if he does or she does interracially date, So okay, when have you ever seen it? I don't know. Maybe you can school me on it. When have you ever seen? So this is deeper than just, hey, you found someone of a different race to love, okay? That does happen, okay? But what I'm saying is, when have you ever seen a white man or a white woman, even if they interracially date, sit on TV in an interview or a radio talk show or wherever else, in a video, a movie, sit there and dog their own opposite sex of race, just because they date interracially. You don't really see them do that. They might say, "Hey, I have a black person," or they might not even, really discuss that. But with black people and black men and women, we've got videos, we've got interviews, of us talking about why we hate our own race of opposite sex, and how someone else is so much better, though. It really cheapens our race and the value, of us as black people as a whole. Number three, why are black men and women promoted to such a magnitude to broadcast their ill feelings toward each other on social media and national television? Why? Because it consciously and subconsciously causes more feelings of anger, distrust, betrayal, and unworthiness on both parties, on black men and women. So if you see a black man on television, and you just happen to click on and see him talking bad about black women, of course, as a black woman, you might, go on about your day. But, some black women are, but it's going to cause some distrust and betrayal. And I think with even black men, even the same ones that do talk about black women bad, when they see a black woman doing it, they feel like, oh my God, she's betraying our race of people. So I think it just brews and stems and stirs up more of those feelings. Okay, number four. Are black people being conditioned that a white man or woman is the answer to their problems, solely based off of black people's unwillingness to solve their own inner issues to make their own women and men better? Okay, and why it isn't discussed how white men and women have their own problems behind closed doors, okay? And sometimes in open public, okay? It's just that the media shows an overabundance of black issues to cover up white trauma and crime, okay? So, I think sometimes, like I said, it's okay to find love in other races of people, and it's more than just interracial with between white and black people, but what I'm saying is, even when we're talking about other races that black people interracially date with, everyone has their own set of problems. Everyone has their own set of issues, but, we're mentioning white people because their issues and trauma and crime and misdealings are so swept underneath the rug, as if they're innocent. So it's to give them that image that they're innocent, but they have so many issues, and if black people would face each other, as black men and women, and start to work on each other, first work on ourselves, okay? Each and every one of us. And then we start to talk and dialogue with some rational dialogue, and not with just a accusatory spirit, but actually, trying to solve our own issues. We will find that we're okay with each other, and that other people have their issues too, and that just hopping over solely because so many issues within our race is running away from our problems versus solving the problems, and that they're not going anywhere, okay? And you generally just don't see white people vocalizing their downfalls as much as you see black people so willing to do, okay? Number five, black men and women have been highly discouraged for the longest to date and made lighter to have lighter offspring, okay? So we've been discouraged, to date lighter. It's always seen on TV, a darker person with a slightly lighter person. These are all subliminal engineering and programming. It's not just like that for no reason. And there's nothing wrong with, black people loving various shades. The black man and woman does come in various shades, but just how it's engineered for us not to have darker children, though, and how undesirable it is, okay? And how having darker children is highly discouraged. Some great philosophers have said, okay, so some great philosophers have said that a lot of white people know that they will not see the hereafter due to their great wickedness. Okay, and that's not to say that black people haven't been wicked or anything like that, but this is the wickedness of, killing, burning, lynching, oppressing, and the great wickednesses that they have done, the robbing and the stealing, that they won't see the hereafter, and a lot of them know that. So the last trick would be to promote blacks and whites mating heavily in hopes and expectation that some biracial people, although some biracial people will mate with black people, but that some of them will mate with white people and continue so for generations to bring back white people at a later time. That's kind of deep. you know. And sometimes, above it all, I can't help but to think of black people as that emotionally abused man or woman, okay, that has been told by his or her partner that they are nothing, okay, only so that the partner can keep giving all their good qualities, never realizing how valuable they are, okay? So, I'm referring black people giving away their melanin, giving away their blackness and their great attributes to the abused partner that's told that they're nothing, okay? Um, all the meanwhile, the abusive partner is sifting the good qualities and skills and attributes that they keep telling this partner that they're nothing, you know what I mean? Only so they can keep questioning who they are and their value, so they can keep giving the abusive partner what they want. Because as long as the abused partner still feels low self esteem, they'll freely give away what is considered great about them without them really knowing it, versus moving on to someone that's going to hold them of better value. And I'm challenging black people with that, I think a lot of times we're told that our melanin is nothing, that dark is bad, and all this type of stuff. Meanwhile, how could you consider me still inferior, or the black man or woman still inferior, when you're just as eager, and trying to pretend like it's only black people trying to hop in bed with white people, when there's so many white people that are just as eager and have been for centuries to hop in bed with black people, all the while of still considering them inferior, though. Okay. Let me continue. Um, and is it the same with black people? Is this another way for them to profit and extract our DNA and melanin from us? Because we've been conditioned that it's inferior or unattractive, and all too willing to give what is of high value away. Okay? Furthermore, is this once again another method of Jim Crow that is taking place? But because of the hatred black women have towards each other, black men and women have toward each other, excuse me, are too blind to notice it, or if we did notice it, hate each other too much to even care. I don't know. Is interracial, us, this whole propaganda of interracial dating, is this another way for, white people, white nationalists to, under the guise of acceptance, having white men oppress black men, but saying, hey, I love black people when it comes to black women, and white women oppressing black women, but saying, hey, I love black men, so I love all black people. Is this another way of Jim Crow, or a way of extracting our melanin, for us to think it's worthless? I don't know. Let me know if you're listening on YouTube. You can drop a line. These are just hypothetical, questions. Something to make you think. I wanted to take a time to thank all my listeners and subscribers. If this is your first time listening to The Truth with Trinity and you felt what you heard, you can hit the subscribe button. If you would like to share it with other people, you can hit the share, and the notification. If you have any questions or suggestions, if you would like to show your financial love, you can do so at thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.